Live. Hello, everyone. We are back with another Hob discussion. Uh, we have a new guest today, Josh from Red Fury Books. He has an amazing channel. He just reached 3K, and check out his channel in case you, I mean, that doesn't seem possible, but in case you don't know, check out his channel. As usual, all of the channels are linked down in the description. Go check them out. And let's start with Fool's Assassin. Josh, you finished entire Realm of Elderlings, right?
Yes, yeah, I finished it last year in November, I believe. So I'm probably the newest one of
Yeah.
our esteemed panelist here on your channel to get through it. But
I'm actually the newest one.
oh, are you really?
I finished it in January.
I
Okay.
think we might. Anita is the newest one.
Yeah. She
Yeah.
Well,
hasn't
yeah,
finished
that's what I
it
mean.
yet.
Of the
So
guest on her channel.
But yeah,
Yeah, I finished in November, and the trajectory was always going that direction for me. But Hobb became my favorite fantasy author last year, and the first time in I've encountered an author in about 30 years where I wondered if Stephen King wasn't my favorite author. So Hobb is probably a close number two in that race, but yeah, the Realm of the Elderlings blew me away, and I love this last trilogy. Was my favorite of the five.
Nice.
sorry.
So,
I'm always so
let's
happy when there's a new Hob acolyte out there. I'm like, yes, this is so
She
great.
just writes better than everybody else. I mean,
She
I hate to I
does.
hate to be hyperbolic, but it's true. I mean, she just has such skill, and she just has the uncanny ability for me to feel so connected to not just Fitz, but all of her characters. And it's just I just recognize that she's simply the best in my humble
Yeah,
opinion.
I
yeah,
agree with your humble opinion.
yeah. Hobb has this ability on the first read through of like I couldn't read anything, enjoy anything after reading a Hobb book because everything pales in comparison, and on reread it pales even more on comparison. So I'm like, I feel bad for whatever follows after me reading a Hobb book. So
Yeah, yeah. That there's the Hob hangover is a real thing, and
Absolutely.
it does require somebody around you being able to say, "Don't panic. Just read something really different before even thinking about coming back to fantasy, because you're just not going to have that connection, and you get used to
take him.
going, okay, well, what else can I read? And this is why my channel is Hob and Pratchett, because Discworld, yes, is still fantasy, but it's just so very different that I can,
yeah,
move between the two. And rereads keep that standard high. You don't forget how good writing can get when you're constantly on the reread.
so Anitha, to totally take over your own discussion on your own channel, since Josh, Derri, and I have read the series, and Derri's read it God knows how many
God
times.
knows.
What were your thoughts on Fool's Assassin? Like, how did give me all the details?
Yeah, because you have had some difficulty with coming through Fool's Assassin.
Yeah.
So
Generally, we start with Pete, but by the way, we are not talking to Pete for dropping out, for making plans with his
hey,
parents.
we're going to forgive Pete because it is his parents.
Oh, by the way, Josh, in that case, in case you didn't get the memo, since
Oh
Pete
yeah,
is not here, you are the resident male. Although
Okay.
you're
we're
the
not
token
talking.
male viewpoint. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not talking Rainwild Chronicles, so I think you're safe for now.
Okay. That's good.
Every time I try my level best, to include more guys. Actually, even now, yesterday I was so happy we got two guys,
Yeah.
this time, but Pete dropped out.
Oh, but no,
Anyway,
that's a point though, Evie, because I have found mostly it's women who have both found and really connected to Hob as a writer. So finding BookTube and any men who have read the series is fantastic.
particularly men who love the final two trilogies or two series. Andrew
Evie,
and
you're
Nico.
going to have to drop this at some point.
Yeah, I
You're
hope Andrew
allowed
pops
to
in
be
so we can all make.
mistaken.
Yeah, I hope Andrew pops in so we can all yell at him.
Jump on.
Yeah, I really wanted a balanced opinion this time, so I really wanted Bridget to join because I know she has some issues too, but she is busy. Actually, now I'm alone. I have
You're
to
not
defend
alone.
myself.
Don't ever think that you're alone, Anita. You're allowed your opinions.
Okay, uh, how do I start? First of all, I can't tell you how happy I was when I started this book to get back with Fizz. It's like meeting your friend after long
Yeah.
time, because it's been almost like 8 months since I read Fool's Fate. So
Yeah.
it took me 8 months to get back to Fizz, and I was so happy. And I like that we got to spend so much time with him. And I never understand why people hate on Assassin's Quest, why people say that nothing happens in that book, because that was one of my favorites. I loved Assassin's Quest. But this book, I understand why people say that there was no
Yeah.
plot. Yeah, especially in the beginning.
Mhm.
I felt that, but even then, I loved spending time with Fizz and all the Molly. Molly is so fantastic. We are going spoilers, right? Almost.
It's your channel, and I'm guessing so.
So I already like Molly. In Farseer, I defended her every time people dunked on her, but this book took her character to different level. Her as a mother, not just to be, even to Nettle. The way she understood Nettle and how she told off his. We'll get to those details. So those moments I liked, and the conversations, as usual, character interactions of Hobb is always, highlight for me. Her character interactions are always 5 stars for me. No one can do better than that. But, however, there is a big but there. Uh, you know how we say,
I'm nervous.
you know how we say Fizz is dumb, but we love him even in
Yeah.
spite of him being stupid, in spite
Yeah.
of him being
Yes.
him missing some main things.
We love him, but he's our idiot.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yes.
but he never felt, how do I put it, it never felt um missing for me or wrong thing for me. I
No.
mean, I understood as a character in this story, I completely understand why he made stupid choices or dumb choices. But in
Yes.
this book, it felt like Hobb made him dumb for plot convenience, especially in the later part of the book, last 150 pages or so.
Okay.
We'll get to those. I'm just giving you summary. And
Okay.
have you guys oh, sorry, I think Emily is here right at the moment when I'm talking negative. Oh, Emily, I like the book. I'm not completely dunking on it. Uh, have you guys know of this book, A Little Life,
Yeah.
by
Yes.
Hanya? Somebody.
By the-
Basically, it's people cry during that book. It's very emotional, extremely emotional, and it.
Mhm.
People love that book. At the same time, it got criticism that it's misery porn, like
Yes.
other played on their emotions, something like that.
Yes.
Not as critical as that, but I felt that way at the end in this book. Actually, oh my god, how made me invested in this book and hurting me. So I felt that way.
Well, before I
Yeah.
get my heart broken even more by Anita going into her details about why she thinks Fitz is a dum dum and it's all plot conveniences. It's fine. I will add that I apparently unpopular opinion. Tawny Man is my least favorite subseries out of all of the Realm of the Elderlings. And while Fool's Fate was fantastic for like 90% of it, the last 200 pages I was very frustrated with it because knowing that the last trilogy is called Fitz and the Fool, I'm like, I don't feel anything about the Fool leaving in Fool's fate because he's obviously going to come back at some point. And then more than anything, it was the kind of gloss over of Fitz and Molly's reunion. And I love Molly. I've loved Molly from the beginning. And I just felt that I needed to see more grief from her for Burrick, because they were together for 16 years. And it's just like, oh, Burrick's dead, and then all of a sudden Fitzy, got it, cool. But I was very frustrated with that. So when I read Fool's Assassin, and we get basically 300 pages, 250 pages, whatever.
Decent chunk.
Yeah, of Molly and Fitz.
Yeah.
And just Molly. We are actually able truly to see Molly for who she is, more than just from Fitz's perspective. We see her wisdom and her just everything. And I understood it. By the way, I'm getting an echo.
Yeah, me too. The thing with Molly is we never saw all of Molly. We just saw that, I can't think of the word, that Fitz saw. But finally we see her as a partner, as a mother, as the head of a household, and we see a three-dimensional woman who's written as well as all of the other characters. That echo is pretty bad, whoever that is.
Yeah, Josh, do you want to mute and see if it's you?
Sure.
Okay, and then there goes gone. Okay, the thing with Fitz being dumb, being perhaps a plot convenience, I think what Hobb is saying to us is he's being deliberately he's willfully ignoring things. He just doesn't want to get involved. He doesn't want to think outside of this created reality he has for himself now. He just doesn't want to know. And that willful blindness, I think, is just him in denial. He's in denial. He doesn't want anything to change, because this is him. He's found his happiness. He's like, no, this is my life. Don't anything rock this boat. And the more things happen that force him to accept that no, change is happening again, you see him resist it even more, and he becomes more deliberately oblivious to it. So when it does finally get to the end of the book and you see him accept that, well, crap, okay, fine, I'm doing this again.
Well, I think more than that, it's once he loses Molly, he loses his connection to, I'll just say it, humanity.
Yeah.
And I mean, because you see it with, jumping into toward the end of the book, like, he just goes into berserk mode with that dog trainer guy thing when he baits the dog.
Yeah.
And he just loses it. And it's not all of a sudden that Anita, I don't want to assume that, like, your frustration was like him just abandoning B and going with the Fool, which was frustrating. But it wasn't out of the blue, and it wasn't a plot convenience, at least for me, because I saw him kind of struggling with staying connected to his humanity, especially after Molly's death. And I think seeing the Fool at the, was like the final straw of like, oh God, this is the one thing that I have one good thing that I have, and I just killed it. Other than being, obviously,
this is my connection. This is my this is the source of my happiness. Yeah. I will also say, and you will get a more specific reason a bit later, but there are reasons why B isn't at the forefront of Fitz's mind in that moment. Yeah. So,
but Emily, you joined.
Hi.
I did join.
Another person who has finished the entire series, and we can just gain up on Anita about her own opinions.
It's not wrong. It's not wrong. He just hasn't read it enough, Evie.
Yeah.
I wanted to comment on something Bridget put in the. She asked you, Evie, about Fool's Assassin, rethinking Fool's Fate. The one thing that because that made me rethink how content Fitz really was. When you see like all these letters he's writing to the Fool, like was he just kidding himself? And it really, for the very first time, I thought of him maybe as an unreliable narrator, because he seemed in Fool's Assassin to be just in a bad place. And not just Molly's death, but even before that, you could tell that he just wasn't quite as content as maybe we thought he was at the end of Fool's Fate. So as to Bridget's question, that made me re-examine it. As beautiful as I think Evie and I disagree, I love the ending of Fool's Fate, and I loved it. It made me weep like you couldn't believe, but I loved it. I thought it was beautiful, but Fool's Assassin did make me reevaluate kind of what I felt and how Fitz was presenting himself to us, because that's the only way we get to see him until, of course, B joins the narrative.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
which is wonderful. I mean, what did you think about B, Anita? Because somehow I don't know how this fandom has managed it, but we do really well not spoiling A, who B is, or B, that she becomes a POV. Both of those things are quite shocking. How did that hit you, Anita? What did you think when you suddenly got this change of narrator?
Well, I will jump in before I allow Anita to answer.
On her own channel.
Sorry, Anita. Listen, Anita and I are the same person, so basically asking Anita is like asking me, and vice versa. There you go, Anita. So I will say, in response to what you were saying, Josh, about questioning how content Fitz actually is and him being an unreliable narrator. Like, I absolutely agree. Like, total unreliable narrator, because we're just getting it from his perspective. And you see like the shifts in perception of his perception of characters throughout the entire series. But specifically in regards to him being content, as someone who admittedly feels irrationally angry when people say that they don't like Fitz, because I feel personally attacked when they don't like Fitz. It's like saying that they don't like me. I feel like you can be content while also, like, being content does not mean everything being
good.
That there's no conflict or internal conflict. So I understood him saying he's content, because that it's a conscious decision to be in.
He decided that this is as good as I'm getting, and this is how I want it, and okay.
Well, I mean, he learned very well from Night Eyes by being present, and by being present, he can be content.
Okay.
Anyways, Anita, go take over your own channel again.
It's okay. We can keep it like that. Okay. For starters, when I heard about B from Evie's tattoo, I thought it's a bee. Like maybe Fizz or Nettle will bond with bee, like Night Eyes. I thought it's going to be an animal. I did not, expect bee to be a human character. That is a sweet surprise. And I love bee. Let's start with that. Let's start with positive. And right from her birth, actually, I mean, for us it's clear that she's like white prophet, because how pale she is, or how uncharacteristic her pregnancy, her birth is. And because of loving Fizz, as Evie said, we are so related to, connected with Fizz. So when Fizz was protective of B, that I latched on to that. Even I was protective of B. I was like, nothing should happen to her. So when her perspective, when her POV started, I was really happy. Yay, new POV. But then that freaking bullying scene, I was like, oh my god, we got her POV
Yeah,
to
and
see
it's
that.
horrible.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's horrible. I was like, from because of that, actually, whenever B's POV comes, I I was like, prepare myself mentally for hurt, for feeling hurt. I was like, oh my god, now what do we see? So
Mhm.
as I love B, at the same time I don't want to read her POV because I'm scared,
Yeah.
that does that make sense?
Yeah,
Oh,
I mean,
absolutely. There's a sense of dread of
Yeah,
what's going to happen to be now.
yeah, I
So
mean,
yeah,
we've already experienced all of Fitz's trauma, so it's like, oh crap, we got all this trauma
we've got
again
new
from
trauma
B.
now.
yeah.
It is Hobb after all, so that's a
That's
valid
right.
concern.
Yeah.
So B also, some of the B scenes are also one of the reasons I felt it's a misery porn, because that bullying scene, see, that's not required. At least for me, I am an immersive reader. I get attached to my characters, so I was already attached to B's character. I was already invested in her. I don't need that bullying scene, um, you know, to feel for her.
Yeah.
But I think the bullying scene was important
Yeah.
because for me, it was this. We don't have the background on Fool's upbringing. And for me, that reminded me like, this is how Fool, his younger years probably played out.
And we do get a little glimpse of it from Fitz when he talks about remembering his childhood and remembering the Fitz being chased and remembering that there was bullying from the other boys in the castle toward Phil. But there's a thing to remember here, and it is mentioned in the epigraphs because I did read them all again last night. It is mentioned that this is not unusual in the history of the whites, where if they're born into a family or a region that doesn't know what these children are, they are exposed. They're left exposed, or they're bullied, or they're abandoned, or they're just too freakish to be included in the society that they're born into. So I do think that it's an important part of the growth of B, she has that shared experience with other whites. So there's that.
Well, on
That's
top
that's
of
actually a valid point. I understand. Actually, through B, Hobb is already also giving us that fool's childhood and the white's experiences. I get that,
Yeah,
but personally,
it's
I
not
don't
nice.
want to cry. I don't want to cry.
Why are you reading Hobb then, Anita? I mean, come on.
yeah,
This is Hobb.
so I will say, Anissa, you mentioned that you felt like it was unnecessary. The bullying actually was necessary, and B even says,
Yes, so
I
you
have
get
to
the
go
reason.
through this because that's the start of her journey. Like, that's when she starts having the dreams and like realizing, oh, this is something that I need to do to start making a change. Hi, Shad.
Yeah, but also there is that very sense of her awakening that morning, and she's like, this is the day I have to decide to free my tongue. So that particular beating that day, she has to you see her make her first choice as a white prophet. She sees the different paths that come from this day, and she has to choose
Yeah.
which behavior to exhibit. She has to choose when to flee the situation, when to stay, how long. And that does, and because I'm reading it, she's clearly been tongue-tied with the membrane in her tongue, and this allows her to learn to speak clearly, to be understood. And as a prophet, that's kind of half of their purpose, is to be able to express these dreams and engage a catalyst as necessary. So
That's a good point, actually. We see for the first time, her seeing multiple paths. Yeah.
mm.
Okay.
All right, Josh,
No.
how did you like B?
Oh,
I
sorry.
feel like we just are like,
You're here, so
So at first, I wasn't. So when B took over the narrative, at first, it was a little jarring. And I didn't like it at first because it was taking away my Fitz time. But then I grew to love the character. throughout no spoilers, but here and beyond, I came to really, really love the character. And part of it was being able to see Fitz from a different perspective, because we never got that. We only got Fitz from his own perspective. But it was a little jarring. I mean, for me, it was so unexpected. And just the initial, like, wait, I want Fitz POVs. And then I found, what B would do a chapter, and then it would be Fitz for several chapters. As we were getting away from B's perspective, I kept wanting more of that. So it was one of those, the initial reaction was different from, by the time of the end of the first book, I loved her.
Yeah.
From literally the moment of her birth, I was like, I admit, I've never been so invested in a character and put myself so much in a character's shoes until I started reading Robin Hobb and Fitz. So that protective instinct that Fitz immediately feels like about the cub is like, I felt that immediately when she was born. So I was like, oh no, this is gonna be great and awful at the same time. Like,
yeah, because I know you've made a really strong connection to B as well, Emily. I mean,
oh yeah,
you were the same. You connected really quick to B.
Yeah, so I just see a lot of myself in B. So like, I was older when I lost my mother, but I lost my mother, and then my father was still alive, and my father and I, we did not have a good relationship growing up at all. Like, he was verbally abusive. So in that sense, like, how B describes is like Fitz harming her, and like, yes, he harmed her unintentionally. Like, I had that kind of relationship with my father of harm, where I'm having to now go, I have this dad, and now what do I do with him? And how do I connect with him where my buffer person is gone? Mm-hmm. And I'm the youngest of four, and how Fitz is constantly, and B always constantly feels how Fitz is putting Shun and Lance above her. My father had two of my siblings were the preferred favorites, and I was not one of them. So I always felt like he likes them better than me. So like, there's just so much of B that like I see, and like the whole grief process that she had, and being bullied. I was like, I'm there for you, B, and I will die for you, B. Like, I just loved her, and her trying to figure out and navigate, how do I have this relationship with this man who also harms me, but he's also my father. What do I do with this? Mm-hmm. As I'm also grieving my mother, who just, she understood me, and I don't even have to say words, and she just knows me.
Mm-hmm. By the way, we've only talked about the bullying in chapter 10. I thought I couldn't sob more after the bullying, and then she freaking kills Molly.
Yeah.
Let's answer Penny's question before continue.
Yep.
For me, I never thought Fizz as ungrateful, actually. I mean, yes, the only flaw in him I see is him making stupid choices. I mean, not understanding what's happening, like think fast, act fast. But that's all. Even then, I love Fizz. I never thought he's ungrateful. Maybe he felt unloved, never ungrateful. At least that's my opinion. Even right from the beginning, I never thought that, actually. And coming to embracing the role as Chade, not everyone is comfortable with killing. Expecting that from at the end of Assassin's Apprentice, he was like 15, right?
Yeah.
Expecting
and that's
that
what I was going to say. He's a teenage boy. How many teenage boys are grateful for anything, let alone a life that, isn't exactly ideal? So that's where I'm going to go with that.
And it's also kind of hard to answer that person who's only read Farseer, because when you get to the whole dog scene in this book, and Fitz realizing Shade treated me. My relationship with Shade is like this dog to his master. Like, and that dog was horribly abused by that master. Yeah. So to say that Fitz is ungrateful really is like, you just don't know the whole picture. Like,
and he's a teenage boy.
Yeah.
Well, I
He
would
was.
also argue, like, even from just reading Farseer, just taking Farseer into account, like, I don't see how he can be, like, I mean, I'm gonna pass judgment here. I'll just say it. I don't understand how people can judge him negatively and say he's ungrateful when, like, no one should be grateful for being used
Also,
and having
his
no life.
history at this point is, why should he be grateful for being unwanted, dumped, abandoned, brought up in a stable, dumped in the castle? It's just the
He
story.
has
I mean,
no agency, and he has
that's right.
no, yeah, and that's why he,
So that's
yeah.
She either continues and learns or doesn't. That's kind of how it goes. But when we come to the relation, if we come back to B and Fitz, there's a really poignant moment, and I think it will probably resonate with any parent of a child who is different in some way, of the grief that they're not the child they wanted. This isn't the child I dreamed of. This isn't the child I imagined growing up and doing these things with. And we know that B picks up on what's around her. So there's a resistance in her of like, well, why should I love this man who doesn't actually want who I am? He wants a child that I'm not. And so there's that they've got to come to terms with in their relationship. So this bonding between the two is really difficult. And when we lose Molly, the grief of that moment it's incredible, because we do see both of them really grieving. We've come to learn who Molly is, so we're grieving. It's very grief filled. And that's the only moment that I remember that I forgive Hobb for killing patients off page.
Right.
Because all the rest of the time, I'm really angry that we didn't get to grieve for patients. But we couldn't have two really meaningful deaths that close together, because it would have taken away from the impact of B and Fitz losing Molly. And that's such an integral part of this story, because it kicks off so many things. So.
And also, just to comment on some of the things that I was seeing in comments, and I don't know who said it, sorry, because comments were flowing by fast as I was switching from phone to computer. But someone was commenting about how they wanted Fitz to bond with B more than he did with Nettle. And yes, he gets that second chance, but like
she doesn't want to let him in.
Bond with B. And what it reminded me, and reviewing the book last night, really reminded me of was how parents react when they have children with disabilities. Because he talks about, I'm like, I have this child, but like, this is not the child that I was expecting. And I'm and like, so he was in a sense grieving when she was first born, like
the imagined
child that he thought he was going to have. And he has something completely different. And then how does he handle that? So that was kind of what it reminded me of, like, how do I get close to this child that I wasn't expecting and is not who I
didn't sign up for this.
Yeah. And then I was sorry, just real quickly. I was just gonna say that, and then like he's grieving kind of in a way once he's gotten kind of adjusted to his life with this child that he has rather than the one that he expected. She changes again and surprises him with her intelligence and
maturity and understanding of the
so he's
world.
having to adjust himself again to this unexpected child again.
I think so much of it you can think, though. I mean, this was what, a 2-year pregnancy, or I mean, it seemed like it was that long. I mean, so much of it was unexpected. So I think we can forgive Fitz a little bit, because it seemed, it was so unexpected, and then she was such a strange, very small and all of that. I think it just the period of time where he had to process all of this took so long, and I it's like we get it. But yeah, I love the quote you just had up there, the scene with Nettle where B does pick Fitz. That
Yes.
was
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's one
Yeah,
of
And
my
so
she's
favorite.
really
beautiful.
clear
Yeah,
that
I
no,
want
I
to
want to
read.
stay with father. Yeah.
It needs
I
to
want
stay
to
with
read
Fitz.
two quotes. One is what Emily said. The worst part was that I had already given my heart to that imaginary child, and it
Mhm.
was so terribly hard to forgive B for not being her.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That, oh my god, that's such a good window to how parents with disabled kids
Yeah.
feel actually. It's so hard for them. Her existence turned my life into a gamut of emotions. It was hard to kill my hope as she slowly developed skills that other children would have had years ago. My hope that somehow now she was getting better would flare up in me. Each crash of that vain hope was harder than the previous one. Deep sorrow and disappointment sometimes gave way to cold anger at fate.
Yeah.
Mhm. And
And
then he
you know
also,
that B feels
yeah.
this. She feels this disappointment in her. And of course she's then not going to want to bond with Fitz. Of course she's going to bond with her mother, who
Mhm.
adored her before she was
Mhm.
even born, and who absolutely accepted her for who she was. And it's true to life, I think. You know,
Mhm.
we've touched on it already that
Right.
parents with children they didn't expect, that's kind of how it's going to go. And Josh makes a really good point in that Fitz didn't believe she was pregnant. He wasn't in the headspace that this really long pregnancy was real. So even when B does arrive, she arrives just as a baby. He isn't thinking about the fact that, oh, yeah, that's right. This is a 2 year long pregnancy. That hasn't clicked. He hasn't made that connection. He's become very wolfish and he's like, oh, there's a cub. I have to protect the cub. And that's kind of as far as he goes in his thinking because he's an idiot. But, we know this.
Nadia, what made you think of Taimara's mother? Nettle trying to take B or
I
something
think
else?
with not
Because
accepting the difference in her child.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think she never saw B. I think that's why she is only thinking about giving her comfortable life. She already accepted B as mentally challenged or
Yeah,
Mhm.
and she becomes fixed in that thinking that
yeah
Yeah.
this is a
she
child
she
that's not
she's only
capable.
thinking yeah she's only thinking about like someone who can give her food and spend time with her, that's all.
Yeah,
She did not consider B as a normal kid. That's why
but she
she
hasn't
made that.
seen B as a normal
Yeah,
child, and nobody's presented B as a normal
yeah,
child in much the same way as they deliberately didn't present B as this healthy, vibrant baby they knew she was to Ketrican when Ketrican came to visit. They allowed Ketrican to believe that she was frail and she was unlikely to survive so that Ketrican wouldn't include her in the family books, basically. And Nettle, by extension, because she's at Buckkeep, she doesn't get the updates. She doesn't get Fitz saying, oh, actually, she can read. Oh, actually, she's incredibly gifted with
Mhm.
drawing and writing, and she's actually incredible. She doesn't get those updates. All she knows is
yeah,
there's this tiny child who isn't developing, who doesn't talk to anyone. Of course, what she needs is just somewhere nice and gentle and not disruptive. And Fitz is not that.
Yeah,
that
and I think she
entire
also sees that Fitz is just in a not he's not in a good place too. I think
Yeah,
yeah.
she
and he's
sees
not. She's
and
that.
right.
and she's right, actually she's right, he's not in a good
Absolutely.
place. And actually
Yeah,
that entire conversation between Nettle and Fizz about B, it was just like top class literature. There are, I mean, there is this, I could feel my anger start to build. Who was she to question my competence in this? The answer that
mm,
came to me was a dash of cold water in my face. She was the daughter I had abandoned so that I
that's
might
right.
serve my king, the daughter raised by another man. More than anyone else in the world, she had the right to believe me and as an incompetent parent.
Yeah,
That,
and she holds that, I think, deeper than she realizes.
yeah.
So there is a sense of almost a getting back at Fitz. Like, you don't get to have this daughter either.
I don't think it's kind of vengeance. It's just that she doesn't think he's capable.
Yeah,
Uh, Yeah, I don't think she wants to take a vengeance on him, but I don't know. I was very understanding of both Nettle and B. Why B, stayed away from Fizz, because she's sensitive to skill. At the same time, she knows what Fizz were thinking when she was pregnant. B, I mean, she has that powers to perceive what Molly
Yes.
was doing, what Fizz was doing. So she was already, I mean, Fizz wasn't even accepting the existence of her. So that makes sense to me. I was very understanding. The only person I was angry with was Fizz. Actually, we'll come back to that.
Yeah, so I will say, going back to Bridget's comment about the, B not letting Fitz be the dad he wanted to be, like,
Mm.
the, when when B and Fitz, like, or when Fitz realizes that she's sensitive to his skill, and that he closes himself up and contains himself, he said, what was it? I have it here. I recalled how she had always stiffened when I touched her, and how she averted her eyes from my glance, even as she did now. I had suspected she disliked me, and it had grieved me. Never had I stopped to think that if she knew all my thoughts about her, she had every right to dislike me, the man who had never been content with her, who had always wished his daughter to be someone else. And again, that's going back to that, albeit unintentional, um, let's call it emotional abuse. Like,
Yeah.
if you're constantly told you are not good enough, you are
You are
not
not
who
what I
I
wanted.
wanted, you are,
Yeah.
yeah, like, that's, you shouldn't expect, I guess, kind of even going back to that comment about the person seeing Fitz as ungrateful. That doesn't inherently mean that you have to have a relationship or be
That's right.
grateful for things provided to you because of actions, thoughts, like treatment, um, of yourself, like negative
Yeah.
treatment of yourself, or even perceptions
Yeah.
of treatment. So, yeah.
I did like that for the first time with B, we get a sense of what Fitz feels like to people who are sensitive to the skill. This seething pot that's just constantly just giving
Barely,
off
yeah.
power. And that was quite telling for me, because it explains a lot of some of the friction that he had throughout his life when he did have to deal with other people who were skilled. August hated him immediately. So how much of that was just that inherent gift that Fitz had as a child, with no boundaries, with no sense of what it was, just giving off this vibe of power, that's going to rub against somebody else who has the same thing. How much of that affected his interactions with his uncles? How much of that affected why he couldn't join a coterie? Because a lot of this happened before Galen's attempt to break his skill. So there's that. And then when he realizes that that B does sense him, and as you say, he contains himself, he then becomes aware of how not contained he has been to this point. So what else has B picked up? What else has she learned? What else has she soaked up just as coming off Fitz, in terms of the really strange way sometimes he sees the world around him? So there's just so much in that simple interaction when they explain how that feels to be, and it's incredible.
And we haven't even talked about the Fool yet.
To be fair, he doesn't show up until quite
Yeah,
late.
Hobb even talked about food.
But I will say also, Evie is completely right. Calling this trilogy Fitz and the Fool is really not cool, because it takes away so much tension from so many things. Like, I mean, I know, Josh, you started reading it a long time ago. Not knowing the fate of Fitz or Fool when you read Tawny Man gives that a whole different sense of tension, because both or either of them could die. You don't know. Now, readers coming into Tawny Man know that both of them are fine, because there's a trilogy at the end that has
Yeah,
both
I
of
was
them.
very confident and secure.
Yeah. And so
But
it changes that reading experience quite profoundly.
mhm.
Bridget
So,
and Penny, I understand what you are saying, that Nettie should know. I mean, she should. I mean, if we are looking at it from a third person, I understand what you are saying. But as a
mm,
child, when you did not get that love and attention from your own mother or father, it's not easy to forgive. It's not easy to forget that.
it's also wrapped
No
in a
matter,
lot of lies and feeling
yeah,
betrayed because of all of
yeah,
those lies.
that.
Nobody told her she wasn't Burke's. And
Mhm.
only after he died, so now it's wrapped with grief, that it's in that same moment
Mhm.
of time when she loses this man that she did believe was her father, does the truth come out, where it is she is someone else's and that person just left her. There's
Yeah,
so many emotions tied up
Mhm.
in that for Nettle.
no matter how old you are, even 40, 50, that feeling will never go away. You may forgive your parents enough to talk to them, be with them,
Mm.
but that abandonment feeling, that lack of love feeling will never go away.
As someone with daddy issues, I totally get Nettle's like
Oh yeah.
treatment of Fitz. So,
Mhm.
I
I
was
will
I was
say,
partially adopted. I didn't know who my father was until I was nearly 13. And finding out that the person that I thought was my father was not my father and that I had been lied to deliberately for that many years, I never forgave my mother for that. I never forgave her for that, for costing me a relationship with someone who I much later discovered did want me. But at nearly 13, knowing somebody had literally signed me away like I was a piece of property they didn't want anymore was incredibly hurtful. And I carry that still. And I'm much older than 13 now. And but that stays with me. So I very much understand the complexity of emotion that Nettle has with Fitz. I get her on a lot of levels.
so Josh, how about your childhood trauma? How does it play into young
Yeah.
reading?
You don't have to answer that, Josh.
I think I'm good. I mean, my parents divorced anyway.
I, I want to go back to Bridget's comment, who said that this book was misnamed, and I'm going to argue that it was not
No.
misnamed, because we have to like, because who is the fool, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think there's more than one fool, and this book is referring to more than one assassin, because
Yeah.
there is that chapter called Assassins,
Mm-hmm.
plural, and that is the time when Fitz and B are burning the messenger's body who had just died. And he
Yeah.
reflects on how Shade raised him and, like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Like, I'm basically doing the same thing to B right now. And I think, and like, this is foolish. So I think, like, the fool, there's three fools. There's the fool that we all know and love.
Yeah.
There's
And the
Shade.
idiots.
There's Fitz. And
Yes.
like, so I think, like, we've got three fools: the fool,
Yeah.
Shade, and Fitz, and we've got two assassins right now. We've got Fitz, and in that moment, B is being trained right now as an
Yeah.
assassin.
Absolutely.
Before we talk about the fool, Anita, can we talk about Perseverance? Did you like Perseverance? That's all I need to know.
Yes, I like Perseverance and I like Revel. I have I am, I don't know. My mind is so cluttered because I want to talk about so many things, so many.
I forgive you for your other poor opinions about Fool's Assassin. As long as you love
Yeah.
Perseverance, I'm okay. So,
And Revel is wonderful. Revel's a fabulous character. But how about, rather than, okay, we'll skirt it, how about we just dive straight in? Anita, why is it that this book has upset you so much and that you were concerned? Let's just dive right in. Tell us what your issues are.
rip that band-aid off.
Yeah.
Okay, see, there are so many things. Fizz. Okay, actually, later it answered that when Fizz killed the dog, he realized that he is similar to the dog. He connected with the dog. I am the same way, loyal to Shade. He abandoned B to go and meet Shade. I was so angry when that happened. Actually, why do you need to go? I mean, there is no emergency there, in peace not required at all, other than his forced loyalty. And he could have taken B. That's it. I was very angry, but at that point I actually made myself forgive Fizz because I love Fizz. But after realizing what kind of people, we need to talk about Shan and Land, by the way.
Oh,
We all need to vent about them. But after realizing what kind of people Shun and Land her, I mean, when he realized and told them off, I was like very happy. Okay, finally Fizz, realized he's doing something about it. Immediately after that, okay, yes, he loves Fool. And oh my god, I don't know what order I need to talk about things. Before going to kill Fool, when Riddle stopped him to talk about, like, okay, I'll take B away. This is like third time you lost lost her. I lost my shit actually. I was like, oh my god, first to find the kid, then you can give lecture. He was like, when Fool, when Fizz was going out to look for B, that's when he chose to stop him. His timing was very wrong. But then he killed Fool. I understand Fizz's drama here actually. He loves Fool, more than anything. He can say they grew up together and they were close friends. And he himself killed him, like stabbed him. It's not easy dealing with that. He cannot live with that guilt if Fool dies at that time. So I understand, and I understand the reasoning Fizz, sorry, Hobb gave us actually why Fizz is not taking B, because it's not, Fizz already spent his skill power in trying to fix that stabbing, and he needs Riddle strength to take Fool through the pillar, so he doesn't have enough strength to take B. Even then, irrationally, I hate it. Fizz leaving B, even after going, I mean, he could have sent someone for B, or he could have told Shun and Land to tell Revel to bring B behind him to the fortress or Buckkeep. He did not do anything. He does not have any plan B. Okay, I cannot go. What needs to be done? So,
I'm going to just say for that particular, for those closing pages where Fitz leaves with Full and B is just kind of bundled into the wagon with Shun and Lant, hold your judgment because there are reasons why B is not at the forefront of his thoughts.
Well,
Okay,
also,
just
uh, to reiterate my argument that I put in the chat, but like in regards to not taking B to go meet Shade, like this entire time, Fitz has been like,
don't come
Shade
near my
cannot.
children,
Yeah.
Shade.
Yeah, Shade cannot know about B.
Yep.
B is going to, like, that's why he didn't even like skill that B was, living, that she had potential, whatever, let
Yep.
alone that she was intelligent, because he didn't want Shade to use B the way he had been used. And then on top of that, he also, like, it was stated multiple times he did not want to take B to Buckkeep at all, because again, he didn't want her to be used and part
Yep.
of the political machinations going on, because he wanted her to have the life that he did not have, which is not being used for political maneuverings and intrigue and all that crap. So
Yeah.
Yep.
uh, okay, that brings me to the another point. We talked about her dreams, writing down her dreams. Fizz knows Fool writes about his dreams. It even reminded him of Fool. That's why he
Yeah.
goes out. Oh my god. Fizz has all, I mean, I mean, the 2 years pregnancy, pale form, that child of like Fool, and dreams. Every connection he has, every single connection. I love
he
it.
He's in denial. He's a dum-dum. I admit it.
Yes,
He's a
that
dum-dum.
he is dumb in that moment, and also sometimes when you're that close to a situation, it's
just don't
hard
see it.
to have that disconnect, to take a look at what is going on here. Like, and I'll just say, like, as a teacher, like, there are things that I'm like, man, I'm really struggling with this situation with this student, and other teachers are like, why don't you do this? I'm like, duh, I know to do that, but I can't think to do that because I'm so emotionally invested and my emotions are so high and charged. And his emotions are high and charged. I mean, he's grieving, you know, and so
Thank
it's
you,
hard for
Nico.
him to make
Thank
that
you,
disconnect
Nico.
what's going on.
See, Nico got me. It's about that situation that's causing him to leave B. That's so conveniently planned so that hunters can take B.
Again, wait, there's more to that.
Bravo.
Yeah. What I would like to also add, because Josh, am I right in thinking that you have kids?
I do not. No.
No? Oh,
No.
forgive me. Because there's also something to consider in that why would Fitz even consider the fact that this child that he knows is his child with Molly? Why would he even think that she was false? Why? Why would he think that? He knows, like in his soul, he knows this is his child with Molly. He has no reason to look for connections there. He has no reason to even consider the fact that they have anything to do with each other. So to some degree, I allow it. When she can speak, however, and she starts talking about a dream journal, then I want to smack Fitz upside the head and go, are you stupid? Come on, dude. But anyway.
Nico, remind me this once Evie comes back. I need to tell something. Okay, sorry. Derri, go ahead.
No, but that was it. It's because he has that truth in himself. He sees no reason to look further about who B is. And why would he? I mean, at this point in the affair, Anita, how do you explain her connection to Fall?
By seeing all the hints, by looking at the hints.
Yeah.
But like, we're not talking. This is like some weird, strange pregnancy, right? Like how it's not
that Fitz didn't allow was truth.
Right. I mean, remember, he's thinking like Molly's got dementia, right?
Yeah.
She's gonna die. And not only that, but like one of the epigraphs you read, like, if your wife is going through dementia, your best option for her is to kill her. Like that's basically one of the comments in one of the epigraphs. It's like, that's what he's thinking
Do
about.
I put her out of her misery?
Right. Not like, oh, she's really pregnant with this kid.
Yeah. So there's just no connection to him that this child is somehow magical or somehow different. Even though subconsciously he knows this, he's just willfully denying it. It's like, no, this is my baby that I had with Molly. Full stop. That end. No further correspondence will be entered into. This is it. Yeah, it's just how it is.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I think we have to.
Yeah.
Can I also comment
think we have
about
to
like
just-
all the comments that are going on in the chat about how Fitz should have just punched the fool and not stabbed him, and that was overkill? We got to remember, he's coming off of dealing with the dog and that dog man. So he's in full on. I mean, like he was feral in that moment, and he's still coming off of that. He's still reacting pretty feral. So like
he's not deliberately choosing to kill this person. He wants that person to let his child go.
Yeah.
And so the aim is not necessarily to kill that person, but to harm them enough that they let the child go.
Yes.
Because he doesn't like killing people. So
Well, and I think it just reinforces again how Fitz is really struggling in this book. He's in a horrible place, and it never gets better. I mean, I think it just reinforces all of that, and it's just it was overkill. He could have just punched
he's
him,
also again, there are reasons why his mental state is not
right. Like
normal
when you
in this instance, there are reasons.
He's not acting like in that moment, again, as a teacher and working with kids with trauma, we learn all this stuff. Like in that moment, he is not thinking in his rational brain.
No,
He is now
not at
in
all.
his lizard brain. Like that is where he is. And in your lizard brain, you cannot think
Can't be
rationally.
logical.
It is
No.
just straight up react. And that's what he's doing.
Josh, what do you think about Fitz leaving B? I mean,
I understood it because I think the connection with the Fool is so deep that that was the only thing on his mind. And then he realizes, of course, the mistake of leaving B. But I think he's been, what's the time break between these two trilogies? Like 30-ish years, 20, 30
It's a lot.
years.
Because we get the chapters before B is born, and then there's quite a big time jump to when she's sort of 7 or 8.
And you see all these letters he'd been
Yeah.
writing to the Fool, and I think he's just been so broken at
Mhm.
losing that connection that
Also-
when he realizes what was going on, that was the thing that went foremost in his brain. And yes, he's Fitz. He screws up, and I think
Yeah,
that's
and
one
also,
reason we love him. Is
Fool
he
is now bleeding
he makes all
and
these
could
mistakes.
die.
He's so fallible.
Mm,
He's so
and B
fallible.
is
He's so
physically
human.
okay.
Yes, yeah, and he
So
just
get B home because she's okay. Fool, I need to get medical attention now. That's a triage moment.
Yes.
That's just the decision that you make.
see, the
In
problem with that
hindsight, could
is
you do it
the
differently?
the problem with that is B is not safe. He knows that there is a threat of hunters because of the message he already received about Fool's son. That we have that in mind. Even Fizz is supposed. See, the point Josh
Put a pin
made.
Please just put a pin in that particular thing, because that particular thing has a reason. So
Okay.
just put a pin in that one.
See, all these things, like Josh said, that's the only thing on Fizz's mind when he killed the dogs. When Riddle was angry with him that putting B in danger, there could have been a mob. And even at the end, when he took away the Fool, all these things, when something happens, when Fizz is angry, he forgets other things. B is not his priority at that moments. These are the things that made me think maybe Nettle is right. uh, she is not always safe with Fizz. You know, B is not always top priority for Fizz. You know.
No, because let's face it, in reality, however much you love your children, sometimes other things have to take priority
Yeah.
in order to look after your child. And in this instance, he's going, when we look at the leaving her behind, when he goes to visit Shade, it's more dangerous in his mind for Shade to be aware of B. So she's safer if he leaves her at home. So his priority there is still putting B as being the core part of his drive, but immediate safety is being held secondary to her overall safety. And so that's just how parenting goes. You're just like, which risk do I have to manage at the moment? And in that moment, his belief is that she's at greater risk if Shade is aware of her.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I agree that I don't blame Fizz for not having be a top priority all the time. At the same time, I also agree with Nettle. Yes, sometimes there will be danger to be.
Well, I will just add, and I apologize for having to step away, but Fitz going, let's just say abandoning B for the Fool, that just reinforces for B this idea that
for B, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
that she's
like,
secondary to
that she, yeah, exactly. And so it's like one of those cases of like they've had 5 steps forward in their relationship and building this positive father-daughter familial relationship, and let's face it, it's more of a mutual respect / understanding rather than of a traditional like parent-child rule. And it takes 10 steps back at that point. because it's just reinforcing all of the insecurities and ideologies, or not ideologies, the ideas that B has of and perceptions of Fitz, that
Mhm.
he's always prioritizing everyone else above her.
Yeah, because that's how children think.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
uh, uh, you all, I mean, I'm not asking you all because you already read full trilogy. People who are reading with me, Chatty, Bridget, Neeru, what are your theories on um, Shun's and Land's parentage? Go ahead, go wild. For me, I mean, I can't decide if Shun is Shade's daughter or Dutiful's daughter. I mean, I keep changing between them. And Land, is Land dead at the end? You can.
good
Raffo.
question.
Raffo.
Ah, I don't know. I had theories. Initially, I thought maybe he could be the son of a fool. By the way, I totally missed, fool's gender fluidity. That's why he thought B as a son. First doubt I got was when the messenger looked at B and called a son or boy something. That was my first doubt, but I did not give that doubt weightage. I keep thinking maybe I keep coming up with this is maybe Land could be fool's son until he comes and be a jerk to be. I mean,
Yeah.
before I was initially when Land was 10 years old, when he came to B's room, when Fizz literally bullied him, I was angry with Fizz actually for treating a kid like that. Because when Fizz was a kid, actually, when he was training to be an assassin, Jade sent him like this, right, to other people's houses. When somebody else treated Fizz that way, I would have been furious. Same with Land, actually.
Okay,
I
okay, interesting. I was like, no, I get that because Fitz knows what Shade is training Lant to do
Mhm.
and what he's training Lant to be. So he knows all the tricks, and he's like, no, I have to make sure that this person, however young, is no risk to my child, and this is the only way I have to ensure that this person has been completely denuded of weaponry. So
Yes,
as a,
but
as a
Literally, like he strips him down.
Right.
yeah,
No.
but this is
I
the
mean,
thing. As a parent, I would totally do that if I thought somebody had the intent
Yeah.
to kill my child. Whoever has come to kill my child, I'm sorry,
Look,
you
Lance
gave
got
up
off
your rights
easy.
immediately.
Blair got off
this
easy in that moment.
okay. This is where I was angry because of inconsistency. Initially, when B was born, okay, it looks like I hated the book. No, I did not hate the book like
No,
Andrew or Nico. I still love Hobb. I still love this book, but I have problems.
yeah, but
So
this is why we talk about them and we find out which ones are things that will be
okay,
solved later and which
initially.
ones are fine.
Yeah, initially when B was born, Fizz went into this wolf mode. He started like calling her cub and sleeping on at the near the door. I mean, it showed how protective he was. It made me protective. But then that bullying scene in B's POV came and that kid slapped her. Oh my god!
Yeah,
Let's not lose it. I initially I was angry with Fizz, all that dialogue, but nothing happened. I hate it when dialogue was there only for dialogue purpose, to make us feel like wow, but then it doesn't turn into action. I hate that. But I understand, Fizz, I mean, parents can't be in every place, to save their children. Fizz can't be everywhere B is going. I understand. But every turn of, place, even when later Fizz, B told Fizz what happened with the kids, that the kids slapped her. Fizz wanted to react, but B told him no, and Fizz understood. If he reacted, all other kids, all other servants hate B. That's a valid reason. But as I expected, the initial dialogues When B was born, Fitz said that he will protect her any cost. That never happened. That never turned into actions. Fizz failed in every way. B got into trouble.
As
I
someone
want to
who doesn't,
yeah.
as someone who doesn't have kids, um, but yeah, you can make promises to do something, and with every intention of fulfilling those promises, whether it be to yourself, to someone else, and actually being able to follow through with them is not a guarantee. Yes, Fitz is
Also,
trying to do the best that he can to protect her and make sure that she's safe, but
it
the
doesn't
world,
occur to him that there is a threat in their own
Society.
home.
right, and also
That
like it's
why
the
would he?
outside, yeah, it's also the world. Like in a vacuum, yes, he can make that promise to her one on one, but when the world gets in the way, you have all of these influences and events that are going on that are affecting everyone and everything that's going on, and you have to like.
And B has made a habit of
Yeah.
secretly following the other children. So if the other children don't even know that she's there half the time, how the heck is Fitz going to know that that's what she's doing? I mean, he's an adult. He isn't part of the child's world in Withywood's. And that's the case for any parent anywhere in the world. For all that you love your kids and you know where they are, you don't know every second of what they're doing when they're in the playground. You can be sat on the bench at a playground and have no clue about what game your child is playing with the other children because they live in their own world and you're just not a part of it. And Fitz isn't a part of that world in Withywood's.
Mhm.
So B has been able to compartmentalize him out of that part of her life quite deliberately.
Mhm.
She puts a lot of boundaries in place between herself and Fitz.
Which is what
So,
Fitz did with Molly.
yeah. And with
And
Boric when he
yeah.
was a boy.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, you know. Anyway.
In regards to just responding to your comment, Bridget, about Fitz should have gotten a separate tutor for B. So like
That goes against everything he knows.
Well, no, not even that. It's just like, well, Lant is supposed to be there as B's tutor, so he's not just gonna get a separate tutor for her because Lant is supposed to be her tutor. And then on top of that, like he doesn't even want to bring Lant into the picture. He didn't even want to bring Shun into the picture.
Right.
But he's like, these are more people that I don't know, that I don't trust, that
Yep.
are
I
not
have to
part of
let
my.
into my house.
Yeah, these are relative strangers. And he even says, like, tells B, like, if this doesn't work out, I will take over her
Yes,
her
I
education.
will teach her because you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Which I really like. I did love that time when B has her first lesson. Lant is very cruel to her, and Fitz takes her aside and he says, I will
always have
take
your back.
your part. I will
Oh my
always
God,
take your
that-
part. So please make
Oh.
sure that when I stand up for you, I'm doing it properly. Like you're
I
not
hated that
putting me in
part.
a position.
You hated that part?
defend her.
I hated it. So I went through like my notes and my tabs last night,
Wow.
and when I read that just made me so mad
Why?
because it's like you have like I will defend you, I will have your back, but you better be sure that you are in the right.
Yeah.
For me, you know, and like basically you're saying, B, you better be perfect.
Yeah,
I
You
I
better
agree
be
with you.
perfectly right.
I-
And I was like, no, I don't like that
Well-
because that was the pressure that my dad put on me. So I will say I read
Interesting,
some of my
because I didn't find
experience
that.
onto that. But
And
like,
that's the joy of reading, isn't it? Is what can you find there that
But-
nobody else does because of what you brought to it.
right, but like to put that kind of a pressure on a kid, it should just
Because I
be
didn't
I
see
will
it.
have your back. Not that add-on of you better make sure that you are right should not have been tacked onto it.
Well,
I
he
completely
doesn't.
with you. Sorry. Today we are acting like, I mean, we are not like this every time actually. Today it's like everyone is like passionate, want to make our points. Okay, I
think that
completely
makes it
agree with
great.
Emily. Half of it, like I have your back. I know you. I always take your side. That part I loved it. at the same time, he said that's why you have to be right always. You have to put more effort to be right.
Mhm.
I think he should have said that in a better way.
Yeah,
You know,
he could have worded
yes,
it better, perhaps.
yeah.
But I get what he was saying. And I never even considered that, Emily.
So
Again, I get to read it next time with other nuance, and I like that. I
so I
like having that other lens.
so Emily, just to preface this, I'm not trying to say you're reading it wrong.
No, I hear that.
So, but I literally on the reread, I'm literally at that scene, and
What page is it on?
page 514 on this one.
Okay.
So he says, "I will always take your part, be right or wrong. That is why you must always take care to be right, lest you make your father a fool." And then he says, "I will always choose to believe you first. So it is your serious responsibility to be righteous in what you do." So right in my
Righteous, I like.
so in my interpretation of that, in my perception, but my interpretation of that is it's not. He's using right or wrong previously as right or wrong, but then he uses right as, I took that as the righteousness of it. So
Yes.
like you have to
believe what you're saying is
is
Yeah,
yeah. So
right.
like
It is yeah.
yeah. One person's righteous action could be another person's, like, you know,
But he also
destruction or
opens with,
something like that.
"I'll back
So,
you, right or wrong.
yeah.
I will always take your word first, always." And I think this is maybe what do they call it?
And I think I will just say he just doesn't want her to be deceptive,
Yeah.
which is what he has been in the past, and he doesn't want to make her be like him, how he was.
Yes. That's how I
I like the caveat that he adds to that statement. How yes,
Yeah.
I always have your back, but you need to be right or you make me look wrong. And I look at it as real world as a teacher. I mean, I don't get this because I have amazing students and supportive parents, but you see in society a lot of parents that support their kids no matter what. Even if
Yes.
their kid's being a little jerk or doing the wrong thing, they still have the kid's side. And so I like the caveat. Like, yes, I will support you, but you need to be the righteous one. Yeah. So I don't know. I see that side of it. I like that side of it.
Interesting.
I think there are two things to consider here. In your case, you're talking about parents being supportive of kids even they are wrong. I completely understand that point. At the same time, it also gives, sometimes when you say that to kid, you always need to be right. When you say that, it sometimes when they're scared of parents, they won't tell those parents. If they do a mistake, they try to hide it. That might cause other problems. So it depends on the kid's equation with parents and the extent of the damage they did, and what right means at that place.
I think too, you have to consider that Fitz is talking about a situation when someone else comes to him and says, "This is what happened," because B didn't tell him about the interaction with Lant. Lant did. And he immediately was like, no, because he's going to take his child's side. And that, I think, is more what he's asking for, is that when I hear things, I'm always going to take your side. Always. So don't put me in a position where I'm backing you up and actually what I'm hearing from this person is right, that you were uppity, that you were disrespectful, that you were whatever, rude, whatever the fault is that's being complained about to him. So if she's basically saying to B, if you behave how I know that you behave, which is why I'm going to always back you, then I'm not left looking like a fool. So stay on that path so that I know how you're going to behave. I can always back you to anybody who comes to me saying otherwise. And so it's not necessarily about her truth or lie or right or wrong, as he's going to believe that she's going to act a certain way always, and he's going to have her back on that basis. and he's asking her just remain righteous because that's what you are.
Also, I want to talk about here how arrogant Land is.
Oh, it's
Initially
insufferable.
I thought Land was stupid for telling Fizz how he treated. Land knows exactly who Fizz is. V is basically princess. He treated her that way, and he went and told his boss, you know and initially I thought it's stupid, but he was just arrogant that he was right. Okay, I am she cheated Nettle, she did not tell Nettle was worried about her, Nettle sent me, Nettle has that power, I am right to treat her that way. He was so
Mhm.
arrogant that even Fizz would agree with him, and he went and told him. I was like, oh my god.
I
i i,
can't
I
stand
wonder
him.
who really his parents are actually. That's what I was, what.
Yeah.
But V also made him look stupid in that moment, and so he lashed back, like in how he treated B.
Yeah, he did.
I agree, Josh. I also hate Lant.
Yeah,
Oh, I hate
I think
Lance.
that's. Yeah, I
I
think
tried
that
to I
might be
tried to give
unanimous.
him I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt a couple times, but each time it just proved that he didn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. And yeah, I always hated that character.
And it made me question Riddle because Riddle thought highly of Lant. And it was the first time I questioned Riddle's sense of other people because he's been a pretty good judge of character in the past. So, and maybe that's why I did give Lant so many chances, because Riddle and Nettle were both like, no, he's good, he's great. So, there's that as well.
When Land was in court, everyone's rank was above him. Maybe that's why he was good. Here, it's not like the case. But even here, Fizz rank he knows. I think Fizz is the only one he was scared of, and everyone else he treats as backwater people, village people. I think that's why we can see, his true nature.
So,
Yeah.
remind me, does I don't even think Lant knows that Fitz is Fitz. He only knows him as Tom Badgerlock, correct?
No, when Fizz went to when Land was a kid, when Fizz went to meet Chade, Chade called him, or Rosemary called him Farseer. I mean, Fizz jewelry Farseer in front of Land, so Land knows.
Yep.
Oh, I thought that was Shun. Maybe it was
No,
both
that
of
was in
them.
the tavern
No,
when she
Shan
went to.
doesn't know.
No,
Shun doesn't pay attention to anything. She's just as awful as Land. I don't like either of them. They're just not nice people.
Yeah, I agree with you, Bridget. When he was supposed to come, I thought he will be like ally with B, but he
Yeah.
turned out be ally with Shan. Actually, I was like, I
Oh.
hated him from the first moment. I mean, first his class, that he
Yeah.
insulting B and shaming B was so uncalled for. Actually, that's not needed.
No.
Yeah. It's it's not cool. It's not cool. Although I will add here again, when we all bring our own experiences to a story. Actually, I'm not going to tell that story until the next book, because some people may not have made the connection that I was about to talk about. Anyway,
Penny,
where were we?
Penny, you just spoiled me that Lant is not dead. He was stabbed at the end of Fool's Assassin, and we
Oh.
saw his body. So
Yeah.
he's supposed to be dead at the end of Fool's Assassin.
Oh, well.
Or maybe.
But okay. Coming back to Nico's. Oh, now Josh is not there. But coming back to Nico's point, actually, yes, yes, I agree, Neeru. Let's talk about Perseverance and Revel first, then I'll make my point. I actually liked Perseverance a lot from the beginning, actually. He taught, I mean, he did not judge B, or he did not make her feel as a strange person. He treated her as a regular person, and he taught her. And even in class, actually, though he's not interested in studying, though he came only his father sent, he's putting effort, he's asking B,
Yeah.
about things. And he's
He's an
the one.
upright boy. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of Perseverance. He's a good boy.
And I'm not sure how he will survive at the end because the bee covered him with that butterfly blanket. So as long as he's conscious, he will survive. He can go and for help, but if he loses unconscious, no one will find him, and he may die in that cold.
Mm.
We will see what happens. And I hate one of the reasons. I don't hate how, but I hated that she killed Revel. I mean, that's
So
why
Oh, that
sad.
broke my heart. It
of all
absolutely broke
the
my heart.
yeah, of
Yeah.
all the people, why do you kill the only good person who is an ally to be? There are so many bad servants out there. She could have killed anyone else.
But he
It's
else
because of
wouldn't have
that.
tried to get to the
Yeah,
children to warn them. And so, that's the thing, isn't it? It's of all of the people who could have warned the children to go, it's Revel. So he therefore couldn't survive
Yep.
to help them escape, because he would have, because she has made him into such a lovely character, and he is lovely. I always love Revel. I mean, he's
yeah.
just
That be
stunning.
buying things for Revel and careful.
Yeah,
So sweet, actually.
it
I
is
mean,
sweet, and
okay.
it gives you that insight into who B is. Like, she actually thinks about, she doesn't just buy them trinkets, she actually thinks about what they like and what they would appreciate, and she puts a lot of thought into the little things that she gets them. So we get to see a very sensitive side to B that we don't often get, because she is so walled off from people. So I really liked that.
Going back to Perseverance, I love Perseverance so much, and not just because of the fact that we first see him like giving B a riding lesson, like
Yes.
as the resident horse girl. Like it's like, oh my god, it speaks to my heart.
Yeah.
But on top of that, like on initial read and especially on reread, like Perseverance and B's relationship in the first book reminds me so much of Fitz and Molly.
Mm-hmm.
And because it says B says, I did not call him Per. I don't know why. I just did not like it as a name for him. I did like that we hadn't asked anyone's permission. I felt I had taken it into my own hands and that I had chosen a good teacher for myself. I liked Perseverance because he hadn't seemed to think he needed to ask anyone's permission to teach me. And then further on it goes, I liked how he knew me here, just as B. And I was like,
Yes. Yeah, and it is, and it's a wonderful little friendship that they have built for themselves, for themselves.
yeah,
Nobody introduced them and has gone, oh, here you go, you guys will get along. Off you go. They literally found each other. They found something together that they were
on a
going to
common
build
ground.
on,
Yep.
and they both treated each other with respect. And I think it's a beautiful start to a friendship.
Yeah.
Absolutely beautiful start to a friendship. And so when you get to the end, and he's so close to rescuing her from this situation, and how devoted he is to
He's
getting her
already
out
so protective of her.
already. And you're
And
like,
I'm just like,
and then for him to be shot, and you're like, oh, so of
And
course she
I
leaves the butterfly cloak with him, because
things,
they
two,
formed that connection. Yeah. So
two things. I was so sure that Fortress was, Mithy Woods get attacked because of how much time Bee was spending in passages, and Butterfly Clock, those two, I think when Mithy Woods get
that was
attacked,
good foreshadowing.
those two will help Bee. But I was so angry that those kids, you know, um,
They trashed
I
it,
mean,
basically.
no, they closed the doors actually. I mean,
Yeah, they
they
locked her out to begin with.
yeah, they put Bee in danger, and even those passages were not helpful for B. And finally that butterfly cloak also, she used that to help us to save Perseverance. Actually, that was
Yes.
such a beautiful thing to do, also
Yes.
annoying.
Okay.
Okay, I did something, I will try to say without spoilers, this last line, last in the epilogue. Neither my wit nor my skill told me of snow melted scarlet there, of women with bruised faces and men with pierced bodies. Nothing warned me on that bright day that the darkest time of life had begun. I missed one line. It is the day my child was stolen, and flames and smoke and the screams of horses rose to the skies over Withy Woods, unheard and unseen by me. When I read that line, flames and smoke, I was so worried actually that they burned down the Withy Woods. If they did that, all those kids will die who are there in the passages. So I went and looked, or tried to look in full quest. Well, I mean, I'll not say anything spoilers. I flipped through like 4 5 chapters. Nothing, guys. Please reset your expectations. We don't see Fizz finding what happened until well into the full quest, actually. But what I saw was Shade demanding or reprimanding Fizz for leaving Shun and Land behind in Withy Woods. I mean, if you guys remember, I hated Shade in Fool's Fate. How selfish he was.
Yeah.
How he put Fizz in danger. He was so always. He's more like Fizz actually. Even Shade was single-minded, but about Farseer line and all. Even
Yeah.
now, Fizz left his own child, but
Yeah.
e- even B is like heir to Farseer line, but he
Yeah.
questions only about Shun and Lant. How can he leave? I mean, what the hell? I got so angry. I mean, eventually I scrolled through and read few lines of his finding out what happened. We will
Mhm.
not get there, but I kind of agree with Nico that it may go down for me. So for what I have seen, it made me angry actually. Whatever I have seen so far, but I did not read much. I just
Well,
flipped.
that's going to happen when you only read little snippets, Anita. You
I mean,
have to read the
Anita,
whole thing.
it is okay to be angry
Oh, totally. What
because
happened was not okay.
it's okay to be angry at Hobb because the third book, once I realized what was going to happen, I was ready to throw the book across the room multiple times. I
And it's
didn't
still
actually throw
awesome.
my book because I'm like, it's a pretty book. I can't throw it. But multiple times I was ready to throw the book across the room.
It, one of the things I will say, and knowing that your issues from earlier in the series, and I briefly I've mentioned on Voxer, is the things that particularly got you about the Live Ships trilogy and some of the resolutions there. I will say this is a more traditional ending for bad guys. So when you get to the fallout of Withy Woods, allow your anger to be there.
Yeah.
The resolution to that will be more satisfying for you than was in Live Ships. Yeah,
Uh,
because I know that is something that particularly grieved you about Live Ships. So, what did we think about Wolffather?
I liked it, Niru.
Just that line. Seeing, I saw that comment earlier, and then I started thinking this book and going on. I teared up. I
Yeah,
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
just yeah.
so good,
I mean, I
so
am
good.
angry because I was emotional actually, Derry. I mean, no,
Yeah,
uh, it was so. I mean, they taking away B, and they did something actually related to that white prophet magic that B was in that.
again
Wa-
for the next book because we're only here for
yeah, I'm
40
only talking
seconds.
about the end of this book.
Yeah.
She willingly go like hugging. She felt safe actually at the end. That last scene that she was in that. High kind of, there is something, the white prophet magic is going on, and so
Yeah.
i I don't know how to feel. I am angry with Fizz, I am angry with Fool, i I am worried about B. uh, I see, Oh, I wanted to say this. All entire book, almost like 300 pages, I was waiting for Fool, and then later I forgot.
Yeah.
We At the end, actually, when we got to finally see Fool, sorry to say this, as much as I like Fool, I did not care. I wanted B to be safe, actually. The
Yeah.
Same, same,
Mhm.
same.
That's the
Yeah.
only thought in my brain. I don't care. I mean, I like Fool. I don't want him to die, but obviously he's not going to die. There are two more books. The only thought in my mind is something will happen in the Withy Woods. B is not going to be safe. That last three chapters I read with that dread feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. But this is the thing, isn't it? Is that when you know, I mean, by this point, you know, Fool's going to show up soon because there's not much book left. So there's the forever sense that whenever Fool shows up, cataclysmic things are going to happen. That is literally what he does, is he shows up and moments in time happen that diverge the paths. So it's not
To put that
causality, it's a correlation.
to put what Derri is saying in layman's terms, when Fool shows up, shit's going down. So.
Oh, yeah. And you know he's
Okay.
coming because you've only got that little tiny piece of the book left. So you know things are going to go really tits up. And yeah, so that sense of doom and dread is totally fair.
Coming back to Neeru's question here, I really like the concept, Neeru, Wolf Father. I am not sure if I understand completely, but Hobb gave us information in one of the epilogues where what happened in the past when one old lady, fell down. Her uh, wet animal went, dog went and
In a dream,
got
yeah.
help. Yeah, so I think it worked in the same way. The night eyes part that was there in Fizz is coming to be I mean, for help, and he also said that I'll always be there with you. I am hoping, even now, when B is in that, what do you call that state when she can't, when she doesn't know what is real, when those people were,
In a
uh,
trance.
yes, thank you. When she was in trance, I think that Wolf Father is the one will who will keep B sane. I think so. I
Well,
really like the concept.
we do see in the passages when she first tries to explore and she panics and she drops her candle and she's in the dark. And it is Wolffather who gets her through that moment where he's like, okay, calm down, take a breath. What do you know? What senses can you use? And he talks her through it and guides her in that moment to forget about everything else. This is where you are. Be in the moment. What can you do? This is what you do. So we know, because he said to her, I will always be with you, that even now that she's been stolen, she does have that within her, that ability to wolf out to some degree and be in the moment and just do what's necessary. So for what that's worth.
I want to talk about one last thing, actually. I mean, maybe not last thing. Oh my god, I can't find it.
I'm going to say to you, Evie, with that comment that you've just put up, and you know that it's my theory and there's nothing to prove or disprove it, but I stand by it. It's a hill I'll die on. When Fitz died as a youth and he shared his body with Night Eyes and they were one entity, when they were then split back into two bodies and Fitz returned to Fitz's body, I don't believe that Fitz and Night Eyes split cleanly. I believe that they were an intermingled entity. They're one entity that just got put into two bodies. So this is, yes, he had more than their normal, after a Bond partner's death, bond with Night Eyes. So
Oh my god, Neeru, you won't believe, when I read the title of the last chapter as The Raid, I just put the book down and cried. I saw it coming, I know
yeah,
what's going to happen. I mean, it was so tough for me to get back to the book and finish that last 30 pages.
yeah.
Okay. I want to read one last epilogue in Patience's perspective. I know that boy would be happy here. I know I could
I
win
know.
his heart and make him mine. I was so foolish to be hurt and bitter when I first heard of him. Conceived years before chivalry made me his. How could I rebuke him for unfaithfulness to a wife he did not have? But I did, for I wanted so desperately what an accident had bequeathed to a woman who did not want him, the child, the heir I would have cherished. I have begged him, even on my knees, to send for the boy, but he refuses. Oh my god, I cannot finish even now. I'm
Yeah, that yeah, I had a weep at that last night reading it because we know how much Patience wanted him. It's and but there's also in that epigraph when they talk about Patience says he would be safer here under your strong sword arm, and it reflects very beautifully a moment that Fitz has in Assassin's Quest when he still sees Nettle being put under Burrick's arm. She will be safer under his strong arm, which is, of course, what chivalry thought, that Fitz would be safer with Burrick. So there's that really beautiful callback there that reminded me of.
Yeah,
you
and
know
then
I have unpopular opinion when it comes to patients' death. I know everyone is not satisfied, but I am glad actually because I get emotional and I cry a lot, and I already expected patients to die before this book, and I was surprised actually, and I was surprised and happy when we got to see
Yeah,
patients. We got that two couple of quirky scenes,
Mhm.
and I I did
Yep,
not
I
cry.
agree.
But I
Yeah,
think
no, I agree. It's something Derry said earlier. If we would have had Molly and Patience, that would have just kind of overwhelmed the first part of the book.
yeah.
So one of those had to happen kind of off page.
Yeah.
But I think it was still so beautifully done. So
Mhm.
it's okay. Hob,
Yeah,
Hob
I
knows
mean,
what she's doing.
we got to see what happened when B asked Fizz.
yeah.
Actually, we
And I
got to
liked
know
that
that.
story.
Yeah,
That she was still that eccentric old lady that was
yeah,
shouting at partners out a window, and was just so invested, and that we see her final moments being the sight of Shiv,
yeah,
which is beautiful.
as B said, she saw him. He came to get her at last. It's a good end to her story.
yeah. I mean, I'm glad that our final memories are of her are good and happy. Actually, I
Yes.
like that.
And she treated all of Fitz's kids and even Nettle's kids with Burricks as her own.
Yes.
She was
She
so
claimed them
open.
all.
Yes, she was so open and loving, and she would rattle them as much as if they were her own. And what is it? They like at Winterfest or whatever, she would like lord over her little spot and just like
Yeah.
put
Like any
boys in
grand.
their place.
She got to
She
spend her last few years with Fitz and Barrick's kids. That was beautiful. I mean,
Yeah, the kids that she always wanted filled up her home that she had prepared for, that she
yeah,
never got to have with her own kids.
that's right.
So she got everything she wanted.
She did. But
One
yes,
of those unsung hero secondary characters. Just
I love Patience.
awesome.
like-
The more you think about her.
I feel like her death kind of reflected how she lived her life. She was a part of the story. She was part of Buckkeep, but she was never like full on in Buckkeep.
No, she was always just on the periphery,
Yeah.
doing her own thing, and that emotional pillar that she was for Fitz was what she was. She was there for Fitz, and
I mean, and
so
you see it in Assassin's Quest where she just goes. She takes initiative. She takes power. She
yeah,
influences everyone to keep Buck like standing and safe and against the raiders and stuff like that. And she's
yeah.
like,
She sold her stuff and took care of people. She did so much for people actually.
yeah,
That
and she was
and
supportive in every way. In terms of the meaning of supportive, she really was. She was wonderful.
And on the opposite, actually, I was disappointed with Ketrikan in this book. I loved her in Farseer and Tawny Man, but
Yeah.
in this book, the way she treated Nettle, the way she stopped Nettle from being married. I hope Nettle is married in secret, actually. I mean, she's initially, I mean, in the beginning of the book, she was 25, but B is 10 now or 9, so
Mhm.
she's 35. So not letting Beautiful was married at 15, not letting her get married for the sake of throne, that was so unfair. I'm so angry with Ketrikan.
It is unfair, and Dutiful has kept that ban in place, even though he now has 2 sons.
Two
Mhm.
The,
sons.
the line is as secure as any royal line can ask to be. So for Nettle to still not be allowed to get married to Riddle makes just anyway. Yes,
Yes, Emily.
angry.
Yes, Emily, go ahead.
Okay, I also like how beautiful, but also how tragic when the walls come down in Fitz's mind and he realizes, like, I remember my mother and she called me Kepit,
Yeah.
and how that goes back to Assassin's Apprentice when he
Mhm.
sees the woman in the market who calls him Kepit, but he doesn't know who that is, and how he can never remember his mother and have those memories. And just, and I was thinking about this last night too, like how those safe spaces that B has in the passages and that Fitz and Shade has in those passages, how those are also kind of reflective of the memory blocks that they might put up in their minds.
Yeah.
Like, and what we do in our minds for
To
safe
ourselves.
spaces and right, and for protection.
Yeah. Because
Uh,
that's
uh,
something to be considered, is the walling off of his mother is not something that was done to him. That's something he did to himself
Yes.
as a child.
Evie,
Yes.
Evie, but Farseer line is secure. That's why they stopped Nettle from getting married. Even Nettle is married now. She has a daughter. Nacheska is not going to accept that for Nacheska line.
Yes. From
Either
the
way, the
Farseer
ban of
perspective,
the
it's
marriage is,
secure, but from the Out
the
Islanders'
reasons are
perspective, it's
old
not.
now. Like the reasons are
Yeah,
gone. She should
yeah.
be allowed to get married now.
Yeah, that's so wrong. And coming back to, sorry, I got distracted with Eve's comment. Emily, coming back to your point, yes, that was actually, I remember that in Farsi itself, that woman calling Fizz, I
For
got
shouting for
that
Kipit, yeah.
immediately. I got out that could have been his mother. It's so sad that, it they didn't allow, I think her mother was there along with her. She did not
Yes,
allow
the
him to go
grandmother.
after, allow her to go after Fizz. That was so sad, actually.
It is sad, and it's something that's easy to miss. And it's one of those things that if you do miss it on the first read, it's a gem on the second read, because you read it and it has meaning. And that second time, that there's a lot of those moments sprinkled through the books where, with context, little tiny things make so much more sense. And you suddenly realize why there are these big long sections of books that are filled with seemingly nothing. Actually, there's a whole lot of story happening right in front of you that you just don't have context for. And so this is why people who haven't read the whole series, who go on about, oh, that was too long and they could have cut that, I'm like,
I will.
just
I will.
wait.
I will say before Josh. I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I didn't catch the Kepit in Assassin's Apprentice.
It-
Didn't
it-
see that at
other
all.
people-
I only caught it because of Jimmy and on one of his shows.
Yeah, it got spoiled for me after I finished Farseer. I watched a Farseer chat that he did previously with
Yep.
that Jimmy did with Chris Bookish Cauldron.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
they spoiled it in
Yep.
that chat.
That's how I figured. That's how I found that out. Yeah.
I got it. I got it.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
I caught it on my first read, but again, I have that thing with one of my parents I didn't know. So I've always had a thing in my head, or did as a young person, that I could pass my father on the street and not know him. And that sentence has always rung true. So when he walks past somebody in the street who is the right age, shouting a name at him with such emotional, intensity, I was like, oh my God, that's his mother. I just knew it in that moment. I was like, oh. And then nothing came of it. And I was like, oh no, that's so sad.
Yeah,
But
that
you know,
was actually, oh my God. Um, uh,
but it's a beautiful little gem because you still see even in that it's her parents that forced her to give him up because the grandmother stopped
her,
her chasing,
yeah.
and it was the grandfather who dropped him at Moon's Eye. So
It's so sad that the person she did love left him, and she doesn't even get to keep the kid. And it's not like when her grandma. I mean, she's supposed to live in like mountains.
Mhm.
When her father gave away the kid, she could have stayed back and moved on, but she did not. She traveled all the way to Buckkeep, and she didn't even get to talk to her own child. That was
Mm.
one of the heartbreaking stories. Whenever I think of that, I'll get tears actually.
yeah, right. There's the interwoven nature of the world that this is all set in is an absolute testament to Robin Hobb, because all of these little connections that you can easily miss are all there. That weaving of an entire world where people that you've met, people who know other people, and that sort of 2 degrees of separation, we see it a lot in the story, and you don't have to pick it up. But when you do, you just get that sense of, oh, that's connected. And all of those connections just give this story a depth that not many stories have, because it flows and it's not sort of pointed out. None of these things are like, oh, look, a connection. It's just there. And yeah, so
Evie has a good question.
It's very subtle and not like. I mean, I don't want to bring Brandy Sandy hate into this chat, but I'm going to. Like, his Easter eggs are not Easter eggs. They're just very apparent and on the nose.
Look, but
Robin.
some people like that too. I enjoy Brandon Sanderson as well, and to each author has their place. Sometimes I like the in your face, and sometimes I like the subtle. And they're both like Hobb is a master, right? Like Hobb is queen, okay? But Brandon Sanderson also has a very much undeniable place and worth. I mean, like,
No, I know. I'm
he was a genius
being,
at his craft as well.
yeah.
yeah,
I have
is
to.
S.
I'm leaning into my shtick.
Hobb is S tier and Sanderson's A tier.
Evie, what did you do? You turned my hot chat to Sanderson chat.
Anyway, Anita, what are your expectations for Fool's Quest? Hopes?
Yeah, Bridget,
dreams?
Neeru, tell me your theories in the chat. I cannot tell you all because I flipped through some. I did not read a single page, yes, but I tried to flip through to see if
that's
it's
so naughty,
only
Anita.
only few chapters,
That's
until
what-
Fitz realizes
I'm
this.
gonna tell you off for that because you don't get a sense of what's happening, and then you upset yourself. So
That's almost
feel
as fast
do
as reading the
that.
back of the book.
Anita, I used to
I
be the
feel-
person that would peek at the back of the book, okay? So it's okay.
Don't
I-
do
I-
that.
I did
It's
it with
naughty.
Hobb, but like I was a person, I'd be like, oh my gosh, are they going to be okay? And I'd peek at the back of the book because my anxiety couldn't handle it. So it's okay.
I
That's
think
fine.
this book, so starting Fool's Quest is an appropriate action. I did not start at the back. I only looked at the first 5-6 chapters.
Yeah. No more skimming for you, Anita. You upset yourself. You have to read it properly.
Okay. So, obviously, I think they'll go after B, or I mean, Fitz goes after B. That's my only theory for now.
Fair enough.
But
Um,
but it took Hobb a long time for Fizz to know about what happened with B. I wanted it to be first chapter. After this epilogue, if that last line is not there, I could have forgiven that. But last line, she hooked us. But she did not give us in the first chapter in Fool's Quest. I'm angry about that.
Fair enough. Actually, I will ask, Josh, how long did you go between Fool's Assassin and Fool's Quest? Did you
One
go
book.
right into it, or just
No,
one book?
one book. Yeah, the last trilogy I read basically first book, and then I put something in between Fool's Quest, something in between, and then Assassin's Fate.
Okay, so pretty quick.
I don't like to spread things out, especially something as compelling as this trilogy was. So, but I do like to not read 100% back to back. So I usually just put something very different in between just to kind of cleanse the palate a little bit. And then I'm even more excited when I get to the next book.
Fair enough. Emily, you read, I think, straight through, didn't you?
No, I read one book a month, and I took 2 months in between Fool's Quest and Assassin's Fate because I could not handle the emotional trauma that I was going through. I was like, I needed more than just like, let me read a light fluff book in between these two books. I needed a month to like kind of recover and then be like, okay, now I could read the next one.
I wanted to start Fool's Quest immediately, but I started Daughter of the Empire. I was like, damn, this is hurting me as well.
I'm not going to complain about that because that's another of my very favorite series. So, but, and I know, Evie, you just,
I was going to say,
the fastest you've ever gone through.
Not that Derri asked, but it was literally so.
You just
11 days between finishing Fool's Assassin and starting Fool's Quest.
Yes.
Bridget is starting tomorrow. That's good. Did we cover everything?
Did we talk about the potential of B having wit sense?
We did not.
No, we did not.
We only mentioned the fact that she's sensitive.
Yes.
And
she's sensitive.
I didn't get any more specific.
She's sensitive to skill. She is talking to those cats.
But cats can talk to anybody.
Yeah, I'm about to say that. But cats can talk to anybody.
But what was also crazy to me is when Wolf Father warns her, don't trust cats. And then immediately following that, and over the course of the next 10, 15 pages, both Shun and Lance are described with cat-like features. And I was like, oh shit, B's gonna get it.
Oh, I didn't even pick up on that.
Oh yeah. As soon as he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, cat feature. And all the connections were there. I was like, oh my gosh, this is bad for B.
And yet that's also, in the sense of unreliable narrator, Fitz says things from his perspective. Night Eyes doesn't like cats. Night Eyes was attacked by a cat. Night Eyes has a problem with cats. So there's also that to keep in mind. And I do find that quite funny that he carries that and gives that to B, that don't trust cats. So
I did not rate this book because at that time it wasn't going to be 5 stars, but I couldn't decide what to rate this book, 4 stars or less than that. I decided to wait until this discussion. I think I do like it more than what I thought. I still haven't decided, but you have one last chance to convince me, to rate it higher.
Well, it's Hobb. I mean, the longer you sit on it, the more you can reflect on it and go, actually, that was really clever, or that was really poignant, or that was really written cleverly. Just the more you sit on it, the it's almost like bread rising. It sort of grows.
I just want to clarify, Anita, did you just say you were thinking about rating it less than 4 stars?
Oh, I missed that. What?
Yeah, that's why the face from me happened.
At some point, I said I thought 3.5 or 4. I couldn't decide.
Wait, 2.5?
3.5, I said. Not 2.5.
At that point, I would have to question our friendship, Anita, I have to say. But only question.
I
think most books you need time, especially books that are denser than they appear.
Definitely.
So don't rate it until you finish at least the next book.
Yeah. And I will say this, going back and reviewing some of the things that I underlined and tabbed, I was like, oh, and I underlined it going I know this is going to be important somehow because it's Hobb. It just seems kind of strange to me that you just throw this line. It's going to be important. It's Hobb. And going back and then rereading it, I was like, oh my gosh, it was just one quick throwaway line or one quick throwaway sentence. And now knowing from
It's
the
an
third
iceberg,
book. I'm like,
what that whole
that's
sentence
where that
means,
comes into
and
play.
I agree with you, Bridget. When I finished it, especially when I skipped the full quest, I
Yeah.
hovered around 3.5 and 4. Now I'm hovering around 4 and 4.5, but I'll wait until I finish full quest.
But that's the thing, it's the immediacy of the emotion. The emotions themselves aren't necessarily happy ones because it's very emotional. As you come further away from it, the fact that you were so emotional makes you go, that actually means it was better than I remember, because it did get me that invested, and I was that, stressed out or anxious because I care about these characters, and I'm invested in this situation, and I need to know what's happening. And as I said with the sentence thing for Emily just now, knowing what you know already at this point with Robin Hobb, and knowing that each subsequent book gives more meaning to the ones before, you know that those things that you already know are important are going to have more meaning, and they're going to be more important as you continue. So there's that as well. So
Anita,
Yeah, that's
here's my argument for you rating it higher, and by higher I mean 5 stars.
it deserves it.
Do you want me on the live show discussions for Full Quest and Assassin's Fate? If yes, rate it 5 stars. If less, I'm deleting you from my friend group on everything. I'm just kidding.
this is blackmail.
It is blackmail.
It's emotional blackmail, which is entirely appropriate for a
Listen,
Hobb stream.
Anita, you're betraying me with these discussions right now, and it's hurting my feelings, okay?
Chad, yeah, I completely agree with you. Yes, everything I read on screen made me cry. And almost like till 500 pages, I was sure that it's going to be 5-star book. Only last 130 pages, and out of the 630 made me
As the
think
doom
like,
landed.
what?
Yeah.
But I am going to wait until to finish full quest and decide what I think about more, what I remember more, the things I love or the anger I felt. Most of the time, usually I do remember things I love.
Joking aside, if you set aside Fitz and just focus on B, 5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars.
Okay. Okay, of all the dunking I did, I still love Fizz. I still, love what, Hobb did, the character interactions. There are a few moments that made me angry, but still, I mean, I will never.
But you're supposed to feel angry in those moments, so
That's
that
right.
means it was successful.
That's right.
Yes, like she
Yeah.
wrote to evoke an emotion, and she evoked that emotion in you.
Yeah. And it comes back to the thing I try and put, I think I have successfully put in every Hobb thread I've ever haunted, is, look, always remember
Bridget
Fitz
is rising
an
you.
idiot. Fitz is an
Bridget is
idiot,
raising her
but
rating.
he's our idiot, and we love him. So that's just, that's the byword of reading Hobb. You just have to accept Fitz is an idiot. That's just what
But he's
it
our
is.
idiot.
He's our idiot, and we love him.
I probably would do the same stupid stuff that he's doing. You know?
Again,
People do, and that's the thing, isn't it? Is that he reacts in a very human way.
Chadia, we are not talking to that person. I'm upset that you're talking to that person.
Yes, his life givers are apparently not as important as a YouTube live stream.
Correct.
So,
Yeah.
more important than Hobb.
hey. Yes.
That's fine. I guess we have been
Hobb
talking about
Hobb would
parentage and like
Yeah, Hobb would
Parent-child
support this
relationship.
nurturing of a parental relationship. So I firmly believe that. We do want to shake him so many times.
True.
Just so many times. So many times. Until his teeth rattle. Like, you're an idiot! Pay attention! But,
I finally did. When he informed me, I just finished making the thumbnail. I was about to post it. Being, Anita, I agreed to go to.
Oh, well, that makes me feel less guilty for the hold up. because yes, I had to be reminded, but never mind.
No, that's okay.
Anyway.
No problem. Um, Damn, I
So,
forgot.
are you planning on rereading at all, Josh, anytime soon?
Not anytime soon, but for sure. I just started I haven't read any of the Hobb ones, but I have the Inheritance short story
yes.
collection. I'm going to read those periodically over the next month, kind of in between books. I've been doing that with short stories, but
For
probably
September. Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to give it maybe a year. I'm actually exploring the Lindholm side of her writing.
Yes.
I read Wizard of the Pigeons earlier this year, and I'm probably going to read like 3 or 4 more of those in the next 6 months or so. So I think I want to read all the other things she's written first before I
Fair enough.
reread Realm of the Elderlings. But of course, I did just read Soldier Son,
Yes.
and that's another
we
discussion
will
where I
talk
wouldn't
about
be,
that soonish,
yeah,
actually,
I wouldn't be so positive on that one, but
No. But this is the thing. I will get in touch with all of us who have read that, and we will talk about that shortly.
yeah, that'll be fun because there's I mean it's still
a lot
Hobb,
to
but
discuss.
yeah, there's a lot to talk about.
So, Anitha, considering this discussion was delayed by 2 weeks because of mostly me, and by mostly I mean entirely me. So I apologize about that. Are we generally going to plan for Fool's Quest to be like end of September as well, just to give everybody enough time?
Actually, people are happy that we pushed it. Many people read it last week only, so everyone was thanking me for pushing it 5 weeks. 1 week.
Oh, I mean, Anitha, you delayed it because of not anything that I did.
We've got Pete going October in the chat.
Pete, I don't know what point you're making with this.
Who's Pete? I don't see anything.
Don't give him grief for having lunch with his parents.
Okay, I don't know. 10th or 17th.
Hey, it's Hobb. I'm be free.
Evie, let me know, and guys, let me know. Pete, Neeru, chat is already there. Bridget is already started. Let me know, everyone, what is your preference?
Either.
And we will absolutely let everybody know in the various chats, and obviously Anitha will put it on her channel when it's
Josh, you're welcome to come back if you're. I mean, if you still want to come back again to this our passionate discussion.
Hey, anytime I talk Hobb, I'm happy. So I appreciate you adding me in. It's been fun.
Fans those embers, doesn't it? And it sort of bursts back into flame, and you're like, oh, that's right, I remember. I love this. So yeah.
Well, and Fool's Quest has one of my favorite chapters in all of literature.
Yes.
So it would be fun to talk about even just that chapter. So
yes. I hope I love it. Otherwise,
you will.
When Fool's Quest had me. Fool's Quest and Assassin's Fate have me with some very complicated feelings towards
there is some
a very specific character where I almost ended up not liking this character.
Yeah, no, there's some beautiful payoffs. I mean, it's such a long series that to get some of these payoffs is so emotional because they go back so far. So I'm very much looking forward to talking about Assassin's Quest with everyone.
Pete, do you really think that you're coming back again?
Josh may have taken your throne as the king of the panel.
That's mean. I'm sorry, Pete.
Burn.
Anyway, on that note.
Okay, I hope we covered everything, and I hope actually I enjoy Fool's Quest more. It did not start well, but now I reset my expectations. Good. So I hope I'll like it as much as Fool's Errand or Fool's Quest or Assassin's Apprentice or Assassin's Quest as much as anything else.
Listen, you loved B, so I guess in Perseverance.
You'll be fine.
So I guess, I should be not giving you crap and gagging about less than 5 stars, but it's okay.
It doesn't come out well, but I did not care actually that you said anything. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Clearly.
Hobb can top Fool's Fate.
Let's end the stream because I want to talk to you guys something about Fool's Quest, what I read.
Okay.
Thanks for joining, everyone. See you next month for Fool's Quest chat, either 10th or 17th. I'll post in Discord. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for joining and be part of the discussion. Thank you, Shadia. I love you all. Bye.
Bye.
Smile and wave, boys. Smile and wave.
Smile
Oh,
and wave.
Anita removed herself.
It's your own.
And we're still alive. Yeah, buddy.
You wanted to talk about Fool's Quest and you ran away.
Boop, boop, boop. All right, everyone.
Here we go. Here we go.
Sorry.
What can we do for you about Fool's Quest?
No, we're still alive. We're still alive.